but.
Okay, we're going to call the North Plains Plan Commission work session for October the 11th, order at 6 o'clock. So could I please get the roll call
Thank you. Chair King,
here?
Vice Chair Labonte, Commissioner Howe, Commissioner Conodell, Commissioner Miller,
Here.
thank you, Commissioner Nunnenkamp,
Here.
and Commissioner Van Domelen.
Here.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Item number 4 is unfinished business, the continued discussion on the sign code amendments.
Yes, thank you, Chair King. Nice to have everybody back. I know we had a missing meeting there, so good to see everybody healthy again and back at it. Since I sent out the information to you last month, there was actually a last minute change that happened overnight. So I'll go over that with you. It actually arose from we started to discuss the entry monument signage that the city has there out at Highland and Glencoe and Commercial Street, and possibly freshening those signs up. And then it came up, what's the sign code say about signs in the right of way and things of that nature? And we really didn't have anything. So I was asked to try and pull something together since we were doing this work right now. And so I'll go over that with you, but that's the only other thing that's changed, or the only thing that has changed since you received it the last time. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, pull that up. There we go. And so I did receive some comments from Chair King prior to that last meeting. Maybe would you like to start there, Chair King, with your comments and kind of get those out of the way, and then talk to the rest about the definitions, and then move on to some of those other sections, the one that I just brought in recently. And then
however you want.
Okay.
It's fine with me that we can just go down the line and then just say, here's what was
Yeah.
said at that time.
Okay. So as it let me get my comments here organized. So starting at the top, Chair King had a comment on the very first one, and it really is just a scripter note there that what he would like to see is we talk about the property for rent, lease, or sale, and then we say rent, sale, or lease. He would like that just to be consistent on how those 3 words are written out there. So we'll go with rent, lease, or sale, and do that for both of those 2 statements right there in that last sentence. Makes sense?
We also strike the word means,
Pardon?
the first word in the description, means.
Oh,
What?
behind the red that's.
Right. So what we're saying is,
A
we're
sign is a sign that no longer,
Doesn't
correctly
need to say
identifies.
means.
It doesn't need to say means.
well, that's fine. If that's not what you want, that we can take that out. That's pretty standard. You know, that's how a lot of the definitions are written. But if you don't like means, it is after some of them. But that's fine. We'll take it out. Don't have one. Got lost in the shuffle. Okay. Is there anything else people would like to discuss on abandoned signs? Okay, sounds like maybe we got that one where we need it. The next one would be the air blown signs. Pretty straightforward. You don't like means there either. We'll take that out.
If you don't like it one place, I'm sure she's not gonna like it anyplace else.
Any place else, we'll just nail that one. Easy peasy.
Never seen that
Um,
word.
I'll send you some codes. The next one, tension flags. Again, pretty straightforward on what we're looking at here. And I think the pictures do really help quite a bit on some of these. So glad you guys agreed about that. The rest of them, you really didn't have comments on per our last meetings.
While we're doing a attention flags, it has means in it too. Has means in it as means of hold.
Oh, you don't like it there? Okay, I thought maybe it was just,
If she doesn't like it one place, she's not gonna like it any place.
okay, I thought maybe it was just at the beginning, but you don't like it there either, so we'll knock it out there too.
Just to
Okay,
be consistent.
there you go.
Maybe if you want to be consistent on that, move the also known as to the end of the sentence and start with the definition.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, Shai?
Yeah, if you go back up again so you can see that
Yep.
area.
Yep.
Yeah,
right here.
so just start with a pole supported sign and then move the also known as to the end of the sentence.
Got it, okay.
And-
Okay. Anything else on attention flags? Okay. Moving on, changeable canopy sign. So not a lot of changes there. We changed some wording on the front end, removed a little bit of wording in the middle and then added some additional language at the end there. Sounds like everybody's comfortable with that. Column sign, I added an image, but I'll be honest with you, column signs and pole signs, they're very similar. And I think this does a good job though of showing what a column sign could look like. So I'm open to any comments there if you would like to change the image or add any language to that definition.
What is it if it's this sign, but it's less than 8 inches or 12 inches? What is that called?
That's a really good question. I've run into this on some other things. You know, where it says that the minimum width is 8 inches, would we allow it to be less than 8 inches? It seems like that would be something, you know, that we would want, if that's what they wanted to propose. But at the same time, I guess you could say it potentially could require a variance to that.
But the definitions aren't describing what we allow. The definitions are just describing what a column sign means when we talk about it, right?
That's correct. I mean, we are trying to use the definitions to help us when we get down to the zoning districts on what signage is allowed. Sometimes we have to go back and forth to really get some clarity on that. But you're right, in terms of the definition, it's there for guidance.
So I'm assuming when we take the column sign and get below 12 inches, then it's a pole sign?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I just wanted confirmation. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yes, I mean,
Especially if it's a single column. On a double column, I guess we would call that a pole sign also, but a single column, it makes sense.
well, that is kind of where the, you know, let me scroll down a little bit so you can see the pole sign. Is it there? So the pole sign talks about a freestanding sign, but the definition does allow for one or more supports.
So maybe in that one, we just say if the support is less than 12 inches, then we've got it covered. If it's less than 12 inches, it's a pole sign. If it's more than 12 inches, it's a column sign.
Well, if it's a pole sign, we have a problem because it's not allowed in any of our zones.
No, that is something we have been talking about, and there was some conversation at some of the last work sessions about considering allowing pole signs in industrial zones, particularly for some of the properties that are along West Union that are don't have frontage on West Union, as a way to provide some advertisement for those businesses.
What are some proposals in this?
Pardon?
There's no proposals in here.
We haven't gotten there now. It was just some conversation that we started and have not finished. And so that's probably where we'll be today, is talking about do we want to change anything in those zoning districts to add different signage, remove signage, expand the signage to be larger. One thing that the city is kind of anticipating coming our way, as you all know, this whole thing kind of got kicked off by the Roll Tide buildings and the big monument sign that they wanted to install along Glencoe. We have a feeling something could be coming back from them in the near future now that they got that second building going, and those buildings aren't as visible as the first building, that they might want to come and talk about doing a monument sign in a location. Who knows? We're just speculating, obviously, but we do anticipate something coming back since they already tried once. I'm not saying it would be a pole sign, but I think they are going to be looking for some help on how to sign those buildings and advertise them.
So the column sign, what's the height? That height, the minimum height,
Depends on the zone.
or the width even?
Yes, let me
Why that won't become a monument sign?
scroll down to the commercial zones. I can't recall at the top of my head if it had some dimensions on that.
So a monument sign can't exceed 32 square feet
32 square feet, exactly.
in C1.
Was there a maximum height that that column sign can do them?
But as far as height, we don't have that type of clarity in the code right now. Whether it's in the definitions or in the zoning chapter, we don't specify the height, we specify the overall size of the sign at 32 square feet, but we don't
Right,
discuss the
sign
height.
Itself could be small compared to what the column could be, right?
Well, I think that's a really good point. And my suggestion would be to keep the definition simple and then to flush out the specifications in the zoning district for how you would like it in terms of height and sign area. I think the definitions are more just to try to get some clarity on what type of sign is what type of sign. And then use the zoning districts down there to capture what type of sign in terms of pole, column, or whatever, and the dimensions that you'd like to see in those zoning districts.
Okay, we can see how that works, so.
So are we basically just saying a column sign is a sign that is consistent all the way up in size? And a pole sign is one that is supported by one or more poles that is smaller than the actual sign on top of it? Is that what we're trying to say the difference is?
I think you're right, Commissioner Miller. I think this definition could be changed. I think the two columns, and then you go down to the pole sign, and it talks about one or more supports. This, in theory, could be called a column sign, but the way we define pole signs, it could be a pole sign. So I think it would be helpful to clarify that.
Pole sign means exactly what it says, pole, one pole. A column sign, it seems like it would have the two.
I agree with that.
Fill in the space.
The pole sign.
That's not, that's poles sign. So. Column.
So it is kind of, it's difficult to know the difference when a column sign turns into a monument sign.
Right.
Well, the difference is being flush with the,
Well, I concur that it would probably make more sense to have the column sign be supported by one or two columns, having that into the definition, and then changing the pole sign definition to be a singular pole. I think that's what most people envision when they talk about pole signs, is the type of sign you see here where my cursor is, that says pole sign. This is, as a matter of fact, when you look up pole signs for imagery, you get a lot of single poles. You don't see many two pole signs. And so it might make sense to take this image here and move it up to the column signs, put it up here and then change the column and keep the column signs the way it is written, and then change the pole sign to say by one, not more than one, just one support.
Yeah, because it almost becomes like the monument sign. If you look at your monument pictures here, it almost becomes to the one on the right there. Where you got two poles coming up off the babies.
Yeah, but
It almost starts looking like that.
the difference is it has the base.
Right. I agree.
But it still has no pole.
Yeah, I'm okay with what you're saying, Steve. It makes sense to me of, hey, a column sign is supported by two columns. A monument sign is the same dimension all the way up. A pole sign is supported by one column.
Well, and it gets it to a point too of clear vision corners, because you can only be so big in a clear
I
vision
don't
corner,
think that's
so.
right.
Yep.
I don't. The column sign with the two posts on it.
Does that look better?
No.
I would say that's more-
So you have a column sign.
Without the monument stuff. That's not a column, though. Because the sign supported by two columns, the description of it has two columns. I don't think it. I think it's one. Single column like that.
I hear you. I hear you. A sign supported by a singular column or two columns. I'm starting to sense that you don't like the two columns.
This is tough.
It's stay a sign, you don't need to be so big. I don't care how you build it, just so big.
It's kind of interesting. When I looked up just now on Google, not that Google's the be all end all, I said, what's the definition of a column sign? And I couldn't find one. And I looked up what's the definition of a pole sign, and the first image that came up was the image that you're showing right now. Is that two pole sign? Just
Really?
like that. That was what came up as the definition of a pole sign.
Wow.
So I do think you said before, Steve, that across cities and jurisdictions, pole signs typically are the thing they define, and a column sign is less common.
I would agree with that. With that in mind, does anybody have any suggestions on the column sign definition in terms of potentially changing it? Is it, should we keep it supported by two columns, one or two columns?
One column, because I mean, it's a column, it's not a column. I would think it'd be a singular with just one, and then let's put some restrictions on what the width and the height could be. Because if you get too big, I don't know what that magic number is, but.
So it might read something like that.
Well, the other thing they're suggesting too is that pole signs are generally taller and monument signs are shorter and stockier, so.
But, you know, this column sign could have it like. a
That's not what I wanted to do.
I don't know, 10 foot or something.
That's not what I wanted to do. I went further than I wanted it to.
Taller.
So that's all I wanted to strike out. So strike out 2 columns, add by a singular column. Then did we want to change the any of the dimensional standards here in the definition? And we'll take that one out.
Minimum width of 8 inches or a single column with a minimum width of 12. That doesn't.
Well, then have a single column, it's gonna be a full sign, right?
Well, it can be the same.
Yeah, unless you change the material that it's made out of.
Yeah, maybe just say it's a singular column with a minimum width of something and a maximum width of something else. And if it's more than the maximum, obviously it turns into a column or it turns into a monument.
Yeah, yeah. I would get rid of that, the two post sign there, though, that doesn't apply.
And what I'm thinking is, you know, when you talk clear vision, a pole sign is acceptable in clear vision because it's like a tree.
Correct.
Or a
Right.
street sign, but a monument is not, so,
Right.
you know, if you, so then you gotta think of in what districts would you allow this and that, and, you know, and then be concerned about clear vision. I mean, you have to
Absolutely.
Do that on all intersections, so that.
No,
What-
absolutely.
That maximum for clear vision, is it 12 inches? That sort of the tree thing? Is it 12
It's,
inches?
12 inches when a tree starts, but it can get up to 24 before you have to remove it.
Mhm. Yes, there are some limitations there, but generally, 3 feet in height or 10 feet in height. If it's a tree, there are some dimensional requirements. Typically, that would be more of a fir tree that would your street trees generally don't get that big in diameter, but they
But
could.
to be okay for a clear vision, how big can my obstruction be wide?
I'm sorry, can you, how big?
24 maximum, because.
And
that's
that-
So that
And
should
I-
be the maximum width of this column of the sign is 24.
Yeah,
So we want minimum
Well,
12, maximum 24.
now,
Yeah, that's what I think.
not to interrupt with Commissioner Miller, but it says 12 for trees, but then it says they can get up to 24. So I mean, you know, we're talking, if it's not gonna grow, do we consider the maximum it could be, or do we pick something in between and say, we don't want it 24, so why are we making it 24?
I think if it's allowable on a tree, we should be able to do it here also. It's not gonna ever get any bigger, so. But we'd have to say it's gotta be like a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 24.
And it's not allowed to grow.
Don't water your signs. So if I'm hearing everybody correctly, it's get rid of the 8-inch, wait. A minimum width of 12. So I get rid of the 8, make that 12 inches, get rid of the single column, and then make the 12 24 inches. Is that correct?
Well, just to throw it out, when I think of a pole sign, I think of something round. If I think of a column sign, I think of something more dimensional, square or rectangular.
I think that's fair to say. I think most,
Yeah.
but then again, there are circular columns too.
Yeah, no,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Like marble.
Exactly. So let me see if I heard everybody right. I'm going to strike out the 8 inches. Strike that through. Strike that through, make that 12.
I'm wondering why we just don't combine them and then
Well,
work it out
it-
between
It's
so many
almost-
feet off the ground.
almost how high they are. Yeah.
Exactly, so many feet off the ground, here's your dimensional standards, so many feet out, below it, here's your standards. And just don't refer to them as a column versus pole, that's my suggestion.
Well, I'm assuming we could look at all other jurisdictions and see how they treat them, and have they already done this homework? And
Well, we have that.
I have some of
I
that
thought he had
available.
some, yeah.
I do have some of that.
Looking at them, and they do
Um,
not
they don't separate it.
separate them, nope.
Let's see. Let's look at what Oregon City does. Oregon City had a pretty comprehensive sign code.
Freestanding pole signs. And it basically, lots of examples.
Okay, that's not it.
Yeah, I think we're trying to make it too difficult.
Try and close that out.
I don't know whose this is.
Prineville.
Prineville. Prineville has a nice one. They just lumped it all together with all three examples.
Okay, let's pull up Prineville.
They just call it a freestanding pole sign.
Prineville. Okay,
Page 5.
page 5. Thank you for that. 3, 4, 5. So for Prineville, the way they define a freestanding sign, you can see it there. They kind of capture everything. A singular pole, multiple poles, and a column. As you can see where I got my
Yeah.
my stuff. But I kind of moved it around just because we had multiple definitions, and I'm open to anything you guys want to do. But you can see we have a lot of definitions and they're very similar.
Well, and then if you use something very general like this, then when it gets down to each section of the code, then you could have restrictions, limitations, whatever it may be for height and width.
Mhm.
When you want it, like, not always to the point, because each scenario could be different. So if you're going out of the driveway and I want, one of these lower signs, and you go take a look at it, you can't see out the driveway. Well, you said I could have that sign.
Well, you still
So-
have to meet the clear vision requirement.
Correct. But you can start arguing the point, you have it written.
I mean, there are sometimes when you have competing code languages, and and I think what we're getting at here on some of these signages is the clear vision. If you bring in a sign that can't meet the standard, we will ask you to move it out of that area and put it on your property where it's not in the clear vision. So you may come forward with a sign permit request showing the sign in the clear vision. That would be my job to sit there and say, okay, I see what you want to do. However, I can't let you go there. You got to push it back 10 feet. So you're outside of the clear vision area, which will hopefully then when cars come up to the intersection, they won't have that blockage.
Correct. Yep.
So it's kind of bringing all the code together, looking at it comprehensively and making sure that it's meeting all the different aspects.
So, yeah, so Prineville is basically taking pole signs and monument sign, or
Or
excuse
ground
me,
sign,
and
or,
Column.
signs and column signs and called them freestanding.
Correct.
signs.
Correct.
And that might not be a bad idea because like, then instead is, then you control the height and the widths and stuff in the zone.
Correct. I like it. I think it's functional from a planning
And then
standpoint.
that way you're not confusing which one's which. It's just in a catch-all.
I think it's a very valid point. And so maybe what I'm hearing, I just want to recap it because I'm not going to update everything on the fly as we go. I just want to make some notes. It sounds like maybe what the planning commission is saying is eliminate column signs from our definitions. And then update the pole sign definition with the Prineville definition. Is that everybody on board with that one? Kai, does that work?
Yes, I like it. Yes. Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I like it.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so we're going to. Definitions have come together as one. Okay. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We will delete column signs entirely. And make the new definition for pole signs, be the definition you're looking at right now. Since we're in Prineville's code, maybe you should look at the ground mounted. And then, I'll pull up ours. So this will all go away. I didn't do it. I'll move all that stuff down here. Let me get back to, and so then monument sign, and frontage, maybe that's where we should pick this back up. So the electronic messaging, amendments that I made here, were your recommendation, since it said city manager, and we believe that it all should be saying planning manager now, or their designee. So that was one of you, I can't recall who made the recommendation, but that came from the planning commission. Frontage, there was a request to amend the frontage definition a little bit. So I don't recall if there were any comments on that. Not that I saw from you, Stuart, but anybody else have anything about the frontage definition they would like to discuss?
So if a property owner has a shared driveway, so they have a private easement, the city staff would have to approve that easement before they could be considered for a sign.
But typically, when you're getting into that situation, it would be some type of commercial development, most likely, some type of shopping center or something like that. So we would get that proposal to come in to develop the whole property. We would see where all the easements are. A lot of time they'll bring in the signage with that proposal because they might want to get that addressed up front. They'll have some type of master signage plan with that type of development.
Not an existing building that somebody just is purely putting a sign out front.
Again, there's a case by case type of review. So if somebody was coming in and we had to discuss their frontage with them, we would lean to the definition for some guidance. But again, we would work it, we'd work through that with them on a case by case basis. I mean, I can't think of the scenario.
Well, I can envision several scenarios where somebody comes in and there's an existing building, same type of use comes in again, so it doesn't require a design review. But they want to come in for a sign. Then they have to
Typically in
then
those-
they have to go through a different process to have the city approve their access before they can get their sign.
The access should already be approved because that business that was there before them was already operating with whatever access easements were in place at that time to gain access to that property. So whenever they set the shopping center up, they put those easements in place up front. Just like a subdivision, when you're putting in your easements and stuff, you record that all at the same time when you record your subdivision.
Older stuff like C2, where a lot of that stuff predated any kind of approval of driveways.
I would be surprised if they didn't have easements no matter when they were approved, because you're going from one private property to another private property.
But it may not be a city approved easement. That's what I'm getting at. I can have a private easement with an adjacent property owner, but I don't have to go to the city for approval for that. So I'm asking, at what are they supposed to show that they have city approval?
Many times it could just be, again, depending on the situation, if it's a shopping center, they tend to have some type of lot created through that process that could have a recorded plat. There could be some deeds that they could bring forward. I'm not saying I'm even going to hit this situation anytime soon, but we can certainly take out city approved and can just say vehicular public access easement.
I don't care. I was just asking what the city needs for approval because I've never seen the city approve a private easement. The only way you would ever approve it if you saw it on a plat. But as we know, everything down Glencoe Road, there's only a couple plats. Everything else is just old original lots.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a scenario down Glencoe where there's a lot that's behind another lot that's getting vehicular access through that lot that wouldn't already have that in place. That would require us to go and look. I mean, so again, if it's something in the shopping complex where where Tennedy's Pizza Place is, and one of those businesses moved out and somebody wanted to replace the wall sign with the new wall sign, I think we're going to have no problem replacing that sign. If they wanted to change the nameplate out on the monument signs or out front there, I don't think there'd be a problem changing those signage, the signs on those nameplates out.
Like, I just was asking a question.
No, I'm trying to think of the scenario. I mean, I look at those other lots that are down there, the place where what is that, G4 Hunting is, they have their own access. They don't have anything through Glencoe. The gas station has their own property. Subway's got their property. Taco Bell's got their property. I mean, maybe it would be the GOA in the future when they finally come in for the shopping center down there. But I think all that's going to get consolidated into a single lot for that development. So, there could be reciprocal easements over some of that property, but it would probably be more for utilities than anything else. But if you don't like city approved, we can strike it. How about monument signs? We didn't change the definition. We added imagery. But maybe based on what we're doing with the column signs and whatnot, maybe there's potential desire to update this, maybe look at the Prineville code, see if there's some ideas that we might want to take from their code. I'll tell you one thing that's really hard to do when you're looking up these images is to find neutral imagery that doesn't promote a business. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with the way it reads right now. I don't.
What's the height? I don't know what's the height on our.
I mean, I like the monument sign definition because it's pretty simple.
Right.
And then we could speak more specifically to dimensions in the various zoning districts.
I think that's just like pole signs.
Well, they, I would say they currently don't control height, but they're such small square footage that it's a monument sign, we can't get very tall.
Well,
It's a
Also making it bigger.
the one on the right kind of promotes a little bit of a pole in there. It could get taller if you don't control the height.
Hey, just so I'm following, are you guys looking at the Prineville one right now?
No, we're looking at the definition that's in our package or in our.
Oh,
that we-
okay.
Can you not
I
see?
kinda, no, I can't, it's not shared right now.
It's not? Let me
I
share it.
cannot-
I'm sorry.
I
thought we
looked at the
shared.
Prineville one and I like what Commissioner Labonte is saying is, can we just drop that in? They seem to have a fairly clear version of monument. They call it ground mounted, but monument and raised. It's very nice.
So what I'm understanding Commissioner Miller is saying is maybe we should, in addition to using the Prineville definition for a column sign, or I mean for a pole sign, excuse me, we might want to also consider using that for the monument sign.
Yeah, I mean, they just basically have two. It's freestanding, parentheses, pole sign, or it's ground mounted, parentheses, monument. It's very clean. And then they have the nice visuals for each of them.
Do folks need me to go back and pull up
Yeah, probably.
the Prineville one? Okay. So share there, share, get the Prineville, share. Okay, so there's the Prineville for a ground mounted sign or a monument sign. They capture more than one sign with their definitions.
Well, that's what we were calling a column sign with two columns, basically, but it's still Yeah, not poles, it's, you make them wider, so therefore they become.
We're gonna delete the column
Yeah.
sign definition.
No, I-
Okay, yep, okay, okay.
This
Throwing
image in the Prineville one though is misleading, the middle center image.
I mean, one thing I like about the city's definition that we have right now is talking about the ground mounted sign has a base that is
Yeah,
affixed to a
that-
base.
The middle does not have a
I like
base.
what we have, so.
I would take that image out and just say, well, that's not a ground mount sign.
So, just, Kai, can you see,
Yeah, I can see.
okay, so when I went back to the city's, code, you can see that?
Oh, no, sorry, it's still on
Okay.
the,
I thought that is what happened. I got to, every time I want to go back and forth between these two documents, I got to stop sharing and then reshare, so.
okay, but I'm following the conversation and I'm in agreement of what you're saying of the, hey, the ground mounted, the base thing makes sense for us. I suspect what Prineville was doing was saying, hey, signs that have greater than 4 feet are kind of ones that could be acceptable, clear vision possibly, and the ones that are less than that sort of are in the way of clear vision, maybe. I don't know if that's what they were after, but
Potentially, but the fact that they let their ground mounted signs be up to 4 feet, that wouldn't really work in most clear visions. Most clear visions are 3.5 feet or less. We're 3 feet. I've seen 3.5 feet. I've not seen 4
yeah,
feet.
I'm saying the ground mounted ones would not comply.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Well, the problem with the Prineville one though is both the center ones appear to be the same type of sign.
Yes, because they don't have any dimensions on them. Yeah, exactly.
One's less than 4 feet, so there's.
That's probably.
Yeah,
I
right.
guess that's the
Well,
difference. They
I'm
just
talking
didn't-
about the center images, not the other.
Yeah, this one and this one.
Right,
Well, I think the middle one there is illuminated down below, the other one is not. So that's the difference.
Wow, you have good eye.
and it's less.
I'm assuming that that's what I would say. It looks
I
like-
do, think there's the potential for different materials there.
So one question, if we use our definition, we actually have in here, it has an engineered footing. We don't
Correct.
have anything else requiring engineering. I mean, you could have a 20-foot sign and not have it engineered.
No, I would imagine, if you have to construct a pole sign, even though it doesn't tell you in our definition, it would require a building permit,
Well, so
which would require it to be engineered.
right, so I'm wondering if engineered needs to be included in the description, is what I'm wondering.
It should be.
It should be part of the application for a sign that they comply with.
I mean, as far as them bringing in those specs for the engineered footing and whatnot, I mean, we will look at that, but it really won't get the level of review until it gets to the building department and the structural engineers are reviewing that design to make sure it's actually going to support the sign. So we will look at to make sure they would have something. But that certainly we don't have any structural engineers at the city to be able to check that out. That's why they would be going down to the county.
Right, well, my
Mhm.
question is we have the word engineered in the monument sign, but we're not in the pole sign definition.
Does everybody want to put engineered into the pole sign definition? There we go.
Well,
We'll put it in.
It says an engineered footing, the pole sign doesn't have a footing.
Sure.
I mean,
That's why.
well, it's not,
That's
it's
why
not
the
in there.
wayfinding signs fell over. They didn't have an engineered footing.
No, I understand that, but that's part of the installment process. They fell over because they weren't installed correctly.
Well, it didn't have an engineered footing, so
They
poured concrete.
did have an engineered footing, but they weren't done. The plan showed it, they didn't follow the plan.
Where was the city at when that was happening?
You might want to ask Blake.
I mean, when I get these signs coming in, for example, whether it was Taco Bell or on,
But would that be
On-
permit level that would say you need engineering plans?
that's what I was,
And
that's,
let's-
I was just gonna say that. Yes, I was
But-
just gonna let you know that as a condition of approval, we would require them to get all required building permits for their signs. And any sign that's gonna be above ground, at the heights that we would allow, would require an engineered, footing,
Same, yeah, like
to be
retaining walls.
placed in the ground. I mean, it's just like
Retaining
when
walls
you.
This high, you don't have to have it engineered. If it's this high,
Yeah.
you probably have to have it engineered.
I mean, like, for example, when they were looking at redoing the sign down there, at Space Age,
Mhm.
they brought their structural engineers out there to test that pole out to make sure the pole could handle handle the new sign that was going on to that pole. When you have a cell tower that's going to get upgraded, they bring the structural engineers out to make sure the pole can handle the new antennas that go onto that pole. That's all standard.
So maybe for the definition, we can remove engineering since that's covered in the application and the design process. Just
So
a sign
I'm
with a footing.
gonna go back to ours. So, I'm fine with it saying engineered footing for our monument signs unless people would like to take that out. But again, it is something that we would require as part of the review, just because we know that these signs would not be able to stand up otherwise without that type of engineering effort. As far as the definition goes, I think it's fine to have it in there. If you want to add it.
But if someone, let's say someone says, well, I have a sign and it didn't require an engineered footing and it has a footing. What is it? It's not a monument sign?
I don't know. What is it? Is it a monument sign and they forgot to get the engineered footing, or is it something else?
Well, why don't we just say a monument sign is a sign that has a footing and a solid supporting base? And then the design review it will dictate how much engineering, if any, a sign is needed. Then you've captured everything in the definition of monument sign.
I think a lot of these signs are gonna need engineering reviews, so can't we make a more general statement about engineering? And, being that approved.
I mean, one of the nice things about sign permits, by and large, they get prepared by folks from sign companies who are very familiar with sign codes and the requirements for the type of signage that's going in. So I'm comfortable if you don't want that type of language in the definition. It can be helpful, so they know that we're looking for that when they read the definition, like, oh yeah, that's right, I do have to engineer a footing for this sign.
I think the permit was called.
I think we is right way to go. More times you put engineer in, people are gonna get the idea. Otherwise, it will fall through the cracks. Hey, I didn't see it on your paperwork. I don't have one. Or
Yeah, and
You're like putting the height of fences.
that's a challenge in and of itself right there.
I'm
But-
I'm fine with leaving it in. I just, the other thing may occur, people say, well, gosh, the only thing you need to get engineered, I guess, is the footing. Everything else, we're good to go. You can, the overall sign, the pole, that doesn't need engineering, just the footing. That would be the
Well,
other.
yeah, the reason you're getting the base of a monument sign engineered is so it can support what's going on top of it. And when they engineer the base to support what's going on top of it, they're looking at the weight of what's going to be supporting, so they can engineer it accordingly to make sure it's strong enough to support the type of sign that they want to put onto that base.
No, I get all that. I'm back to Vice Chair Labante's comment, which is, if you say engineering on just the monument sign, is there the risk of someone misinterpreting that it isn't required on a pole sign?
I think we're talking about putting on both, but wait. Yes, that's what I understood.
I think I'm after consistency one way or the other. We either leave the engineering out and we leave it to the permitting, or we put it in and it's clear across the signs, pole sign, whatever it is, it needs engineering.
You see what I just added? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is that what everybody is thinking?
Works for me.
Should there be language in there that it's not attached to the building, or does that matter?
I'm sorry, what?
A monument sign, that it's freestanding.
That's probably not a bad idea.
Freestanding in what sense?
Should be, everything be the
I
same.
mean, a monument sign is generally not freestanding because it's mounted to the base.
Well, freestanding from a building, from a structure.
You mean, so it's not a wall sign?
So if I butted up my monument sign directly adjacent to my building, is that considered a wall sign or a monument sign?
If it's on the wall of the
It's a
building, it's a
protruding.
wall sign.
It's not on the wall, it's abutted to the wall.
As long as it's got a engineered base, then it would be a monument sign.
Okay, so we don't care if it's attached to.
I mean, generally the monument signs are closer to the street.
It's the attachment, not the, if it's not attached to the building, it's not part of the building.
Right, exactly. So going back down to freestanding, I added the term engineered. It sounded like maybe that is what folks were looking for. And I think those are the two signs maybe that we would be most concerned with engineering, because again, not saying that your wall signs are not engineered. As a matter of fact, the sign that went up on Capillo did have some structural calculations that came along with it, because they did have to get a building permit and an electrical permit to install that onto the wall of that structure. But again, that's a function of the building code requiring that, and not so much myself. Again, when I'm reviewing the sign codes, I'm reviewing them for our dimensional standards, their locations. If we have letter heights or whatnot, we review them for that. Then what we do is we put down recommendations, or we include conditions of approval. Make sure you obtain all necessary permits from Washington County Building Department for this sign, and anything else that would be required. We use the conditions of approval to direct them to know that there's some potential other permits that they need to obtain prior to installing the sign. So it's kind of a twofold type of process, but again, because most of these are being installed by sign companies, they usually are out in front of me before I can get the sign permit approved. They're already asking if they can get a letter so they can go down to the county to submit for a building permit for the sign. So I'm not saying it's always going to be that way, but for most businesses, they do hire somebody. So I think what I've heard the most about here is, let's get rid of the column signs. Let's use the Prineville definition for pole signs. We'll make sure that the definition that we take from Prineville will include the term engineered for the supports for the pole signs. One thing we did not touch on, I'll just go back because these were Chair King's comments, but we did update the mural section to remove the mural term for what's not considered a mural. So that has now been deleted. We didn't have any updates for projecting signs, but I did thought imagery would be helpful. Again, very hard to find good imagery that does not, find a certain company, and so I tried to be as neutral as I could on that. Very hard to do. One thing that Chair King brought up in his comments from prior to the previous meeting is to remove some of the capitalizations that are in the sign code, where it's not just the first portion. And so if everybody is in agreement with that, I think the main reason that was done, obviously it was done before I got here, but I think it's just to draw your attention to that, so you can see the additional note they're trying to make. But if people would like that to not be capitalized or bolded, we can remove that. Is there consensus on doing that? Like this would be taken down. This would be removed,
I don't think it should be bolded or capitalized if it's not the title.
Yeah, I agree. And
Okay.
it's, throughout, I mean,
It is.
a number of places that have it.
Yeah, okay, so we'll fix that. I think everybody's pretty comfortable, aside from the double capitalization. I think people are pretty comfortable with the projecting sign definition. We didn't have any comments on that. Roof sign, we did update that. One comment that Chair King had was the image wasn't that good. I agree, it's probably not the greatest. I'll see if I can find more, but again,
Especially if it's printed in black and white, it's even gonna be worse.
just trying to find something
Yeah,
neutral
no,
is
I
so
understand.
hard.
No, I understand.
So it might
Almost
be
looks like
something,
a night picture, you know?
it does,
Yeah.
and I'll see what else I can find for that. It might be something, we have to create ourselves. Maybe we have to draft something up.
Then back in the pole signs, if we continue to use that one that shows the little man in it, assuming that's a 5 foot high guy or taller, that means that that pole is 30 some feet tall, and I don't think we should show sizes there.
You wanna promote that?
Yeah,
after
promote
I-
that it could be that tall.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it shorter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just concerned about that, yeah.
Yep.
We are 5 minutes before our regular meeting. We can go back to this because our regular meeting will be short and I'd like to stay on time for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was kind of my thought is, we would pull this back up during the regular meeting and go as long as you want.
Oh, and make it part of the regular meeting instead of closing and then go back to workshop? Doesn't matter to me.
Close it.
Yeah, probably be best to close it and go back to workshop.
Okay.
I only ask that you guys be nice to me. It's my birthday today.
Well, happy birthday. Okay, we're adjourned.
There we go. Now we're talking.
His wife's taking the new dog out for dinner.
Yeah, the dog and the wife are going out instead of me and her, so. Okay. Yeah, so I'll stop recording this real quick
Okay.
and then we'll pick it back up in 5 minutes. There.
I call the North Plains Planning Commission regular session for October 11th to order at 7 o'clock. Please rise for flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I please get the roll call
Thank you. Chair King,
here?
Vice Chair Labonte, here, Commissioner Howe,
Here.
Commissioner Conodell,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Nettenkamp,
Here.
Commissioner Van Dongen.
Here.
Thank you.
And
He wasn't gonna show up. Ex officio tonight is Counselor Ricky Smith. Here. Thank you, Ricky. I showed up anyway. You did. Showed up anyway.
all right, thank you. Item number 5 is public comments. This time is available for anyone in the audience or on Zoom for comments on planning commission business that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone?
Nobody on Zoom.
Nobody on Zoom? All right. Item number 6 is the approval of the minutes for August the 9th, 2023. Is there any comments, questions, changes?
Did everybody get the one I sent out today with the changes? They had a chance to- Okay, great.
Yep. Sorry for the last minute there. I just got lost in, when we were canceling the last meeting, I, was running over here to put a sign on the door and forgot to forward,
Yeah.
Chair King's, email over to Lori. So sorry for the last minute on that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as written, August 9th.
Been moved by Commissioner Dunkamp and seconded by Commissioner Hout for approval of the August 9th minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Those opposed? Minutes passed unanimously. Item number 7 is new business.
Yes, there's really no new business in terms of land use applications that have been submitted to the city. So the new business right now for the planning commission is the old business of the sign code update. But I will let you know that there are some people asking questions about potential uses in the city that could bring some applications forward to the planning commission prior to the end of the year. One of those would be for the property on Glencoe Street across from Subway. It's the yellow building there with the long parking lot that's been for lease for a little while now. I think it was a chiropractic building maybe before it went vacant. It looks like there's a person who's looking to open a preschool in that building. I spoke with them today. It's a nice couple. I'm not sure if they'll get everything in or not before the end of the year, but I know they're going to work hard to do that. So you might get one more application in the form of a conditional use permit and minor design review for that use in that building. As far as any other potential applications coming in this year, the only other one that may come in could be for the Space Age gas station. They're looking to add pumps to that gas station. So the existing pumps that they have right now, they would like to turn those into diesel pumps only for semis and whatnot, and then add 6 new pumps for the regular gas. That would be kind of on the west end of the property, kind of at the northwest area of that property. It sounds like they'll be doing some interior remodel work on the convenience store there as well. Other than that, there's been a person who called me about the Highland Street property there between McDonald's and the Veteran Memorial Park. The potential for a car wash there. So not sure when that would come in, but they have called a couple times as they're doing their due diligence on that property to find out what that would require. And that's really about it in terms of any potential applications coming in between now and the end of the year.
Okay. Any questions, comments on staff new business report? All right, item number 8 is unfinished business.
Unfinished business is our sign code.
And item number 9 is our land use application and city project monthly report. Any questions on any of those? A, B, or C?
We have no permits this one. Oh, I don't have a, oh, I didn't put it.
Well, that's I think the old one that came out in September. Okay. Item number 10, planning commission comments. Anyone from the planning commission? Comment? Commission or Councilor Smith, any comments for the planning commissioner?
I think everybody's aware of what the city council's been doing with their Etsy and UGBs. I know there was somebody collecting signatures, and as far as I know, they've got the amount of signatures they need put on the May ballot.
Yes, maybe I can expand on that a little bit.
Does that have not, Ricky?
No, they do have enough, I think.
Oh, they do have.
I just read an article before I came here, the Forest Grove paper, that they collected about 260 signatures. So I'm not sure what effect that has on us. In front of the county on the 18th.
We go before the planning commission on the 18th to present the UGB proposal to their planning commission. As you probably know, that referendum in terms of the signatures that they gathered, that will go to the county for review of those signatures to make sure that everybody is who they said they were and that they're a registered voter and they reside in the city of North Plains. They need to have 243 of those people to get that onto the ballot there in May. In the meantime, the city will continue to move forward. We've spoken with our legal counsel. Our legal counsel has spoken with the county's legal counsel, and everybody has agreed that the best thing to do right now is to continue to move forward. Because everything else in terms of whether or not they get it all the right signatures and everybody is a registered voter in the city limits is a little speculative right now, and whether or not that will happen. If it does get put onto the ballot, it's speculative right now whether or not it will pass or not. And so instead of putting our whole process on hold and waiting for the May election to come through, what the city and county have decided to do is to continue to move it forward and go through their processes and put it over to the state. We're hopeful.
What does it actually say? I haven't seen what it actually says. Does it say they just don't want to expand? Are they saying we're in violation
wanna
of
put it
certain
on-
things, or
They want to
what
put
are
it on
they
the
actually
ballot.
saying?
Well, my understanding is it's to repeal ordinance number 4,
490.
Or, yeah, mhm,
Which is.
which is the UGB.
right, which is the ordinance that adopted the,
Just the expansion period.
Yeah.
Then they don't want.
mhm,
Okay.
that's correct. This is pretty narrowly focused to just that ordinance. One thing, I believe, Chair King is already familiar with this, but one thing the city is asking is for folks to come out and support the city at the October 18th, meeting with the county. And so if there's anybody here that would like to attend that meeting and just speak to the efforts that we've done to get to this point and that you have support for the proposal, that would be fantastic. The meeting is going to be in person, but it will be a hybrid, so you could also attend virtually if that helps you attend the meeting. So the city is just trying to garner as much support as we can for this because it's been a huge effort. And I think, you know, we would like to just have some other voices to help the planning commission understand what we've done.
I had a question. I don't even know how they're doing this, which the governor passed, I don't remember what bill that was, but.
The Senate Bill 4.
Was it
Before,
SB
was
four?
no, was it before, I don't think, that if you're under 10,000.
Mm,
Oh, yes.
Whether or not the expansion happens, which is
That's
why
an
that's
annexation.
why this happened.
This is not an annexation, this is a UGB expansion.
Well, I guess if we do the annexation after that, I guess.
Well, one, we're under the 10,000 threshold. So, you know, those would not apply to North Plains. And then annexation would be really the last step in this process. Once we get through the concept planning and we know how things are going to develop out in terms of the zoning and whatnot. So in terms of anything that was passed that would affect cities that are 10,000 or greater, it wouldn't apply to North Plains.
Reminder email.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Reminder email.
Yeah,
October 18th?
we'll send a reminder email if you give me all the.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes.
What about the meeting on Monday?
What meeting? Council meeting?
We're supposed to meet here Monday at 5 o'clock.
Oh, yes, there is a meeting. You're right. There is a meeting that Andy has called at 5 o'clock on Monday. I can't recall everybody that was included on that email, but it is an opportunity for us to kind of brief you on the process that's going to be happening October 18th. Answer any questions that you may have if you want to provide testimony. Maybe share with you some talking points if you're looking for some. We did have a meeting today with some of the property owners that are inside the proposed boundary just to see if they had questions, help them understand where we're at in the process. They were a little confused on what was next and, or, you know, the timing and whatnot. So we kind of had this conversation with them today a little bit. And that's what I envision Monday at 5 will be. It'll be very similar.
So only select people were invited to that meeting?
What's that?
I think it was department heads.
It was primarily department heads, heads of the committees and the council, those type of things. But again, if you would like to come, I can share the email with you and
I think it'd be nice to share it with the whole planning commission.
Okay.
Monday.
I'll share the invite. That's all it was just an invite.
Right.
Mhm. But yeah.
I'm just curious, after Andy Varner's email to all of us with talking points, if anybody should have any questions. Has anybody been approached? I mean, before the email, I've talked to at least a dozen people that have reached out and sent me emails. Well, I don't even know who they are, but I haven't received any inquiries since Andy said about that.
I haven't heard any, but I haven't heard anyone.
The only inquiries I've received are from people out of the city of North Plains asking what the heck is going on over there.
Okay. Any planning commission have anything for city council? No. Thanks for joining us.
hopefully it's a quick one.
Well.
I'll take my
we'll see.
time while my
You'll
voice
see.
hacks.
Oh, that's.
Well, we'll move on to item number 11, which is staff comments.
I think I've given you everything I got.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Hearing none. our next regular meeting will be November the 8th at 7 o'clock. We don't know if we're gonna do a workshop
I
first,
think we'll have one more. I think it'll take one more to wrap this up.
so 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who is it?
November the 8th.
So we'll, if we pick it back up for a little bit tonight, that would be great. And
Okay.
then, I will, probably, I have some time right now, so, I'll try and get you all the, changes before the next meeting so you guys can comment and maybe we can fine tune that to get it done.
Any other commission business? Hearing none. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
For the record,
Thank you.
and we'll adjourn at 7:14.
Hit the stop recording. Hit stop recording.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't hear. Share the screen. We'll pull that back up. Where'd it go? Why is it not there? Oh, there it is. Okay, so I think the last one we looked at was the roof sign definition. And I think the comment on roof signs was, let's see if we can find a new image.
I sent you one, Steve.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And then obviously we will strike the word means from this one. Might as well just do that
So
now.
that definition makes sense. It's kind of wordy.
Which one was that? Are you saying the roof sign one was a little wordy? Sign constructor to maintain wholly upon or over the roof of any building with the principal support on the roof of the structure.
Um,
Seems pretty straightforward. Um,
Can we eliminate the last three words?
roof of the structure.
Can we just say support, the primary support on the roof?
Sign constructor to maintain wholly upon. With the principal support on the roof and just those
Just
two right
say
here.
on
Yep,
that one.
yep, right there.
Slightly less wordy.
It's
So,
almost redundant, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of redundant.
So, there we go. Less wordy. So we did not, have any recommendations for changing the definition on the sign area, but I did move some, examples in on measuring the sign area. It looks like one of the things I did is I forgot to change this letter. It all came as one. So, I'll have to work on that so I can, tweak that a little bit. But, we can make that happen. So I'll fix that B there, so it's an A.
Well, that's what one of my comments was.
Correct.
That you don't need a B if there's no A.
Right, and,
So what do you
and
need an A for?
what I'm saying is when I copied that, it just copied that whole thing,
Right,
and
I
there was
understand.
oversight, so.
I mean, I would just eliminate the B and
Yeah,
not worry about it. Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yep,
All right.
yep. Wall signs, you didn't have any recommendations for changing the language, but I brought in some visuals. Again, it was a whole one. I don't like this one. The white one doesn't do us anything. So I'll see if I can find a few more that we can use. So I'll just update the imagery a little bit for that one. Window signs, we changed quite a bit. We'll take out the word means.
I'm sorry, you were, the unlawful sign
I'm sorry, what?
under, I'm sorry, you went past the unlawful sign. A sign that was constructed or placed without a necessary permit. I mean, a sign doesn't necessarily need to be constructed.
But I put in my comments too.
Let me get back to where that was there. I'm sorry, can you show me where that is? Which one we're looking at now?
The unlawful sign.
Lawful
right.
sign.
Unlawful signs,
That's that
okay.
wall sign. I had that in my comments also, because it's more than just constructed, it could be placed there.
So where would you like me to add some language?
A sign that was constructed or placed without the necessary approval of the city.
Or required permit.
Okay, so we'll add that language right there for unlawful sign. I agree, sometimes they are placed. We got the wall sign, we got the wayfinding sign, and then,
Why not just a sign without a permit? Not an application, say constructed or placed.
That kind of covers it without, yeah.
you know, and there could be an unlawful sign that someone puts up that's, like a temporary sign or, but temporary signs generally don't require a permit, but they could place a sign that's like in a gray area. It's not a temporary sign. It's just not a sign that's supposed to be there.
Well, that would be under approvals of the city then, right? Not necessarily permits, but approval of the city. If it shouldn't be there.
I mean, for example, there was a gentleman here who was doing a mobile detailing car business, car washing business, and he started placing his sandwich board signs around the city in the right of way. We had to contact them and let them know, you know, you can't put your sandwich boards, you know, for your business around the city in the right of way. So that's something that it wouldn't require a permit if it was placed at the business. Just having a sandwich board, we see that around town quite a bit. But because he had them in the right of way, not saying that's, you know, it doesn't require a permit, but it did require being placed in the right spot.
So this kind of brings, I'm going all the way back to the very beginning where we're talking about abandoned signs and this kind of. So you talked about removing the sign, but what about the structure of the sign? Like the poles and, I mean, it doesn't talk about that having to be removed.
That's part of the sign, man. I mean, that's a pole sign.
Yeah, right.
So like.
Removing the face doesn't, if it's not being used, yeah.
But
It
like
would be.
Walt's tree service where they plastered it up on those poles and they removed the sign, but the poles still exist. One down on Martin's, they ended up converting it, putting a light on top of it, cutting off the sign part of it, and making a light out of it, which is okay.
Yeah, no, we were quite happy about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that's a classic example where it was an abandoned sign because they took the sign face off, but the sign stayed up.
Right.
We finally got it cut down and turned into a different use. I think everybody likes it much better now. It's painted black. You can't really see it anymore. It's low enough. So
what about the one that like up there where Walt's tree service used to be, where there was two poles still standing out of the ground?
we refer all of your complaints to the city manager. On that one.
Actually, the city manager said he was gonna take care of it.
I think I've heard of that one before. I think I've heard of this before. I got, you know, he's not giving me the chainsaw yet, so.
Face down, but they didn't take the structure down. Right?
Yeah, it's,
Well, I just didn't know.
Now, the structure has been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah. I just didn't know
think it
if there's
used to
something
be
in the
the-
wording that we need to put in here to get the city's attention.
well, I think what would get the attention is some emails and stuff like that versus words in the code.
All right, let's move on.
So we'll have
Yep.
extra language, the unlawful sign. The sign that was constructed or placed without the necessary permits or approvals of city or which violates clear vision or something to the effect of your right of way.
Well, you could just add or city code, approval of the city and codes.
Sign that was structured, without the necessary permits, approvals of the city or
Sign code.
whatever.
Yeah,
So
for the
it'd be
sign.
something more
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
There you
so
go,
it'd be
sign code.
like that. Like this. Like that,
Or
like
violence.
that.
Yeah.
Like that, like that, or
Violate the sign code.
Then that would cover your right of way issues or
Yeah.
any clear vision issues or anything.
Yeah.
so now I gotta remember what I gotta underline, and what I gotta strike out. Okay, so that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. Goes there. Okay, okay, so I think I got it. So Windows signs, this is one that folks did comment on. So we added something.
Why is wayfindings 1 and 2? Center to the agenda, within the right of way and.
Sorry, I didn't mean to move that. I was looking at something else real quick.
Yeah, no, I'm just, every one of these definitions starts with the bolded letters and then get down to wayfinding in it. Wayfinding 1, and then 2 wayfind.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Why it's doing that?
That was there. I haven't touched that. I'm not sure. Maybe some of you may remember or recall what happened there, but we can, I agree, it's a little odd.
Sometimes after it's cleaned up, after we approve it, we don't ever see it again. So.
I mean, maybe,
Unfortunately, that's true.
maybe what this needs to do is just take that wayfinding out, right?
Yeah.
And just encompasses all the way. Is that really what we're looking for?
Get rid of 1 and 2, get rid of the way sign and do that.
Right.
Right.
Just
Just make it 2 sentences.
Yeah, just add it to the first sentence and say that encompasses.
And then I'll take all this and add it up here, is what you're saying, to the, and all the 2 will go away.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'll do. I'll move it up here.
Or just leave the wayfinding in there, but take the bold off. So wayfinding encompassing all of the ways.
Okay, let me go back. So is there a preference? Do people want, do that? Where's my undo button when you need it? Okay, I'll fix that. Okay, so is it just taking away wayfinding and then leaving the rest and having it
I
as
think
the
you
same,
just
or
use wayfinding, but take the bold off.
take the bolt off?
Yeah.
Okay,
And the capital.
and the
Get rid
caps,
of the
okay.
1, and get rid of the 1 and 2.
Yeah. Just add it to the first line.
So that, is that what, and then you want me to take that and move it up to the, right after the period there on the first one?
Yes.
Yep, okay. So now it would look like that. That'd all be new, even though it's old language, it's going to a new location. Double underline it, do that. And I shouldn't have done what I did down here. So undo that, and we'll just strike all this out now. Ed, yellow. Is that what people are looking for?
Strike number one up above then. Strike
Remove
number one.
the number one.
Oh, take number one out, okay. Um,
And put it. Move everything from wayfinding up so that it's lined up with bold wayfinding, like the rest of them.
so it'll just say wayfinding sign, and then you move this definition up so it comes right off of there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Without pulling up the number one and get rid of.
Yep,
number one.
yep, okay, yeah, I'll work on that. That's good. Back to window sign. Anybody had any comments on the window sign?
Just the means again.
Yeah, I crossed it out.
Okay.
You'll see a conflict here, so like I said, I wrote this one section right before we came in here, so I think I'll have to delete some of it. So what we did, so that gets us to the definitions. We didn't have any comments on the standards and permit section, but then this is where we talked about, Andy and I and Rowan about, these signs that the city has that are in right of ways, and not just city signs, but county signs, could be state signs, could be federal signs, speed limit signs, all the different type of signs that can come into the right of way. And what we decided to do was to exempt that type of signage from requiring a permit. It didn't make a lot of sense to require the county coming over and getting a permit to put a speed limit sign in, or a directional sign, a no parking sign, or even like an entry monument type of a sign. But I think what I'll need to do is take out the signs that are inside the building, because we have our definition up here about window signs. And so I don't think we want to exempt the window signage from the permitting process. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, did we skip past window sign?
Which one?
I don't know I don't know where you're at.
We was talking about the. Yes, we talked about it and went past it already. Did you have a comment on window sign?
Well, again, it's just so much. I don't know that it needs to say locale, or, I know we're striking means, but I think we could also strike locality bound, because it then talks about being written on or displayed behind the window glass. So to me, that's self-explanatory where it's being displayed. But do we need to go as far as saying stop fronts, commercial, office, industrial? I mean, shouldn't it just be behind the window glass when it comes to a window sign? Do we care what type of building it is?
I don't think.
Well,
In the definition.
It could be, that's what I'm saying, I don't think we wanted the definition. We may want to talk about when we get into our industrial, commercial, residential stuff, right?
Yeah, I agree with all that.
So we'll do.
You could also make it singular. You could also make it singular instead of plural. I think all the other ones are singular and this one's plural.
Yeah, it should be a sign.
Take a look at that. Was that what you're thinking?
I'm sorry, I can't.
I can't see that.
Okay. I'll see if I can make it bigger.
It'd have to be really big.
Well, just use your little bar down there on the right-hand corner.
Yeah. It's-
Does that help?
That.
Whoa.
Oh, no.
See, you should be doing that all the time.
No one told me they couldn't see it. It's a little bit hard to fit it all on there, so let me know when you get to the end.
I was gonna
Yeah, I
say,
think
the
that-
lower right.
Yeah,
also gives
you
you
use
the
this.
for
this thing a little bit, move it just a little bit down, it might, there you go, see, then you can get it,
Wait a minute.
whoop,
Uh-oh,
there.
going too
you can
far.
Get it to fit on.
Can you read that?
Yes, that's what we were talking.
That covers it?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So is everybody good now with window signs?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for pulling us back. So again, this was added today, to try and address, the various signs that go into the right of way. I think this should go away probably. A. Because I think all we're really trying to capture is,
The same number as the signs for residential zones?
407.
Yeah.
well, again, these would primarily be signs, that would be located in a right of way. So some of them could
Right.
still,
Code numbers are used.
Yeah.
You're duplicating a code number.
I did.
Yeah.
See, I took all the other ones below it out. And changed all the ones below it, 8, 9.
Okay.
And-
Okay.
So I took it all out.
It's for people that get used to looking at certain sections of the code. It's always changing.
So, yeah, it was used. We're gonna reuse it and we're gonna make it 407 and change everything below it. But I think, just based on what we just talked about, window signs, I should take out A. I don't think we need that. Except for, you know, it might be making sense to have like a score. There could be some of these ball field signs that come up, maybe at the elementary schools, things of that nature. Is that something you would like to see permitted that goes through a process, or should we exempt those type of signs from?
You're talking about like on fences and stuff like that, advertisement or?
Some of that, that's a good point, but I think what we're looking at more, you know, the scoreboard signs, but you're right, you know, the signage, the promotional signage that goes on the inside of like a school fence,
Right. It's
for
very
like a
broad.
baseball game.
Not just promotional, but it's usually.
Sponsorship.
Correct,
Well,
yep, mhm,
That's promotion.
yep. It's a double edged there, promotion and advertisement. But maybe what I need to do is take out, signs that are on the inside of a building. I don't know, it's up to you. I can see how it could get a little confusing there between some definitions and what we're exempting.
Does anybody else exempt?
That's a very good question. I did a lot of searching.
Have to exempt a sign in the right of way when only right of way officials can put stuff in the right of way.
Yeah, well, you know, really what it comes
You're
down
jumping
to
yourself.
is, trying to help the public more understand how the process works, that, you know, we do actually exempt certain signs from requiring a sign permit, and the ones that we're going to exempt are going to be these types of signs. It does help staff having that in the code to explain some of these things when it's not in the code. As you could imagine, people start thinking, oh, you're making me do something, and you know, you should probably be doing it too, but if it's exempt.
We're gonna argue that C.
Hmm?
C. So every city-owned property that you have a sign on, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to abide by the sign code.
Well, that's a good question. We talked about that, actually. The question was, you know, okay, so if we're gonna exempt that from the code, then what would be the standards for the monument sign, say down at Highland and Glencoe? You know, could we just make that sign any size we wanted? And my comment to Andy was, I don't think we should do that. I think what we should do is, if we're gonna exempt the city from having to do a sign permit, we should at least make our monument signs match what would go into that zone.
Right.
And he agreed with that. Now, maybe we need to add some language in there to better
But when does a
clarify that.
jurisdiction exempt themselves from a planning process.
I'll have to go back, and this came from a jurisdiction. I can't recall which one it came from right now. But
The
it,
majority of this is required signs are exempt.
that's what it's trying to get at. Yes.
Right.
Was trying to get at required signs in addition to a entry sign for the city. That's not a required sign, but they go in the right of way, and we didn't think it made sense to bring, you know, we have commercial zones, industrial zones, residential, and it didn't make sense to go right of way. So then we got into the conversation about exempting signs. Then we went in and looked to see if other cities do this. Then we found this particular one. This came from Wilsonville, I believe, is where I found this. And so it was like, oh, there is some language that cities are using to exempt certain signs. And we saw that there was primarily required type of signage, the wayfinding signs, the speed limit signs, the no parking type of signs, those type of signage is what the cities were exempting. We would like to have it also exempt a welcome to the city type of a sign, particularly the ones that we have at Highland and Glencoe and Commercial. So we can do things to those signs.
City Hall is exempt.
The city of North Plains is exempt, and that would be City Hall.
What about signs where it says park this way and
That would be one of them.
more of that is exempt?
That would be a sign that we would,
That would, well, that would be a wayfinding sign,
Oh, that's
but those aren't in there, are they?
They're not.
Wayfinding?
again, I think that this could be tweaked.
All right.
You know, this is the first blush.
Some of us do.
I mean, we call it the federal, we call it the county. We can add the county to that. I think that would capture all the various agencies. We certainly aren't trying to get nonprofits. We're not trying to capture, you know, if it's not a state and federal city or county, I don't know what else it would be.
Washington County to put the wayfinding signs down over there?
I think we had to have approval, I'm sure.
Did we have to implement?
But city sign was part of the Gateway project for the Glencoe improvements. Is that really in the right of way?
It is.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
well, so are
how
the
did-
spires are in the right.
It
of way,
is.
too.
For some reason, I thought we had an easement from that property owner.
That property actually cuts the corner. It doesn't come straight down in a square there. It actually has a diagonal cut on it before it gets to that right of way.
That's what they did.
And the sign's right in front of that, right in front of the property.
He's the one we worked with for the Glencoe project.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that, and the sign over here, at Commercial and Glencoe is also not in the private property or an easement. It's actually in the right of way for Commercial Street, actually both streets.
Not to get off of this, but I've been just thinking too, is now. Gang boxes, mailboxes are not signs, but they're in the public right of way. Sometimes they're in clear vision, like on the corner of
And they require post office approval.
Three
Not city
or Main and Hillcrest. I think that one's in the clear vision corner. Plus it's on the sidewalk, so it blocks the 5 foot wide sidewalk
Where's that one at?
on the corner of Hillcrest and Main.
Oh, just right down the street
Springer.
here. And I haven't seen it. I'll have to go look at it. I mean, I've driven by it. I just can't recall it.
Yeah.
But you have a good
Well,
point.
and
Mailboxes
there's
are a
well,
huge
there's
problem
another,
for us, to be
gang
honest with
box
you.
On the corner of Wasco and Main. And I think it's in clear vision, but not that the street comes out yet, but it will.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so.
they will have to move eventually.
I mean, some of the mailboxes we're having particular problems with right now are the larger community
That's
mailboxes
what
that maybe
that's a
capture.
gang
Mhm,
box. That's what I
exactly.
mentioned,
That is a gang box, exactly.
Okay.
And right now Lennar is putting them in spots we're not super impressed with, because they're right where the alleys come out to the streets, and they're just very tough to see around those mailboxes.
Yes,
Some of
it
them,
should be 10 feet high.
they should be 10 feet high, exactly. The irony is some of those boxes actually are outside of the 20 feet, you know, so, but it still blocks your vision. So I can't get them to really move it. So we are working with them to try and
Well,
get these
need
in
to
better
work with
spots.
The postal
It's the
service.
post-
Yeah,
That's
it's the
what-
postmaster too. Mhm,
Yeah.
Yep, no, I'm familiar with all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's trying to get everybody on the same page for sure.
Right.
And they understand it, but
Just wanted something that we
challenging.
were considering and not, I know it's not a sign, but it's, you know.
yeah, you know, one thing I just found out that's kind of odd, and I'll get back so we can get back on this, is they're not putting the mailboxes on West Union for those businesses that are on the north side, on the north side of the street. They're all on the south side of the street, opposite Sunset Ridge. I had no idea until this.
street.
Yeah, I had no idea they were across the street. So one of the gentlemen that lives at the very end down there, one of the properties that's up for coming into the UGB, he came in and said, can I put my mailbox in the right of way over on West Union there? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you put it on your side of the street? And he said, because it gets destroyed. He goes, you know, the semi trucks, people drive down there, they take it out with their mirrors or whatever.
Can't they have it delivered back at the property?
That's what I was thinking.
They cannot, the post
Yes,
office can
they
only
have-
deliver
yeah.
if they have,
Mhm,
cannot back up.
mhm,
They have to be
mhm.
able to turn out.
At the end of that street, if there's that business there, they can't deliver it to their property.
I found that peculiar
That's one of
though,
those
so.
Back by the tracks. Morgan. Yeah, they won't go down there and deliver mail back there.
I haven't had the
That's a public
conversation, but
street. That's what I
yeah,
was asking.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Hmm.
Anyhow, so you can see that mailboxes can be a problem though.
Yes.
So maybe that should be part of the development application process where the city has to also grant approval for placement of CBUs. Because all new subdivisions, you're gonna find that.
Yeah.
Yep.
there-
No, it,
Stop it right there.
it is something I've encountered in my previous work, other jurisdictions. They do require you to work with them on those locations. And so it's just something, you know, we need to pay more attention to and make sure that we're capturing that in our master plan reviews. So, but it's not uncommon.
That was all from the postmaster.
Pardon?
On West Union, yes, put it on. the
Well, remember
south
those two houses
South
were
side.
the only houses on West Union, so that's why they're on the south side.
My brother had to put his over across the street when he built his house.
Interesting.
That was from the postmaster.
Yes, well, that's what I heard. The postmaster is telling the people to do this. That's what I just found out this week. Which I thought was odd that they would want to make people cross a busy street to get their mail. That's the last thing we would want,
They're worried about the person delivering the mail, what's
Right.
safer for them to pull out.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And we were worried about the pedestrians having to cross the street just to get the mail. So, but you're right, the postmaster is dictating this. Mhm.
On West Union.
Yeah, on West Union. It sounds like maybe what I should do on this exempt permit requirements is, this is all of our first look at it. I'll make some additional tweaks, add the county to this, update it a little bit more and send it back to you guys so y'all can see it. The only things we would have left to do, well, wait, let me go a little bit further. We did do the abandoned signs. We went and took out what was currently there, added sign, abandoned sign enforcement. So there's now captures that we're actually going to enforce abandoned signs. And then the language here. Again, I got to go back and get the right code section. I don't have that right now, but it is I think it's 151 or something like that. I'll have to go back and get that, and I'll add that to it.
So interestingly enough, in this section, we duplicate the definition from earlier in the abandoned sign definition. So do you really need to redefine it? Rather than just saying abandoned sign? Actually, I don't even think you would need any of that.
I could certainly take out one. I could take out this last sentence here, an abandoned sign shall be any sign that meets the following conditions. Well, maybe not, but one. But we might want to keep B and C.
So it says here that I don't have to tell the city manager, I can just tell you.
You can tell me.
So that sign down there.
It's not adopted yet. You still got to go to the city manager until this gets adopted. So we're moving in the right direction, it sounds like.
The one comment I had there on C is owner of realty. I thought it should be property or something.
Mhm.
It's just because owner of realty is not a common term.
There we go. So maybe some folks haven't had a lot of time to look at that. Maybe look at that a little bit more, look back at the new language that I just put in there, see if you have any suggestions. If anybody,
Did you send us the new language? Cause I didn't. see
I
it.
will, no, like I said, I just got it, so I'll send this
That's
all
what I
back
thought
to you.
said, but
Yep.
yeah.
No, I'll send all this back to you with the updates that we've made today. I've saved them all. There's a couple more I gotta add into here. And then I will start working on adding in some suggestions for the various zoning districts. If you also have stuff that you would like, if you want to send that to me, any comments, suggestions that you have on the various zoning districts, that would be great. I'll include it and I'll make sure there's a little thing that this comment came from Chair King, or this comment came from Commissioner Doug, or whoever the case may be, just so folks know where the comments are coming from. And I'll get that back to you. I have a lot more time available right now that Rowan is here. Rowan has been a big help. So that's given me a little bit more free time to do other things. So I think I should have more than enough time in the next month to get all this back to you, get any comments you have, tweak this, because it would be great to wrap this up at our next meeting and have something that we can bring forward to the city council in December with your suggestions.
So I know
Wait,
that.
city council's gonna review it before it goes to hearing?
They need to approve it and tell staff to go forward with doing a text amendment. So you guys are putting together a proposed text amendment. We're gonna bring that to city council to share with them.
Wednesday, Tuesday it, or are we gonna try to wrap up multiple items?
What's that?
Well, we have so many outstanding code revisions. Are we gonna Wednesday, Tuesday?
Well, no, I don't think that'll be the track going forward. I think as we work through the concept planning process for the UGB,
There's lots of things that are outside the concept plan.
I understand. If we're gonna go through the concept planning process and make sure we got all that in place. And then I think what we're also doing right now is chasing a grant from DLCD to update the code and all the code. So it can capture the new land coming in, the existing lands here. I've kind of gathered from the city manager and from the mayor that they don't like doing the piecemeal code amendments, but they're fine with moving forward with the signs. But that's not the direction they would like to do if we're gonna just, onesie, twosie them all the time. They would rather just amend the whole code, update the whole code.
Well, we just did a whole bunch of code amendments in anticipation of UGB expansion.
In terms of the stuff that you guys did for the downtown improvement plan, the things that you did for the various residential zoning districts to include middle housing, those type of things won't change. Those things will be moved forward, and then we'll work on trying to get rid of the NC zone and how we incorporate whatever planning process it is that we're going to want for those lands that come in, a master planning process, whatever that may be. I think is what you're starting to see right now is gearing up for annexation. And if we're going to bring in a new zone or eliminate a zone, how are we going to manage that? Is there a new zone that's going to replace it, or is there going to be a process that replaces it? And then let's get that process nailed down. I think once this land is finally approved and it's ready to be annexed, based on the amount of phone calls I've been getting, the land that's most readily available for development will probably go pretty quick. There'll probably be some applications coming in sooner than later. Once that, no, it's anybody's guess on when that's going to be ready, right? I mean, there could be.
Sitting there, everybody told us that it's gonna go slow, it's gonna go at a.
I don't think anybody said it would go slow. I
It's
think,
gonna slam down.
no, I don't think anybody say it's going slow. I think you'll hear that the land on the west will be very slow in getting brought and annexed in because there's not a lot of services out there. The services have to kind of progress down the streets to get over there for that land. To the south, that land will be somewhat challenging to service from a sewer perspective. We're going to have to probably either hang a pipe under the bridge to get a pipe over there, or bore under the highway to get a pipe over there, and neither one of those is cheap. So the land on the south is going to take a little bit of time to figure out how that's going to get developed. But the land on the east end, where there are readily available utilities and services to facilitate that development, I anticipate that coming in somewhat sooner than later once everything's approved. But again, in terms of, it's anybody's guess on when a developer is going to approach a property owner and they reach an agreement on the sale price and everything else because one of the things you're dealing with here is you're dealing with a lot of land that's EFU zoned, right? And so when that land gets annexed and gets rezoned into a city type of a zone, an urban zoning designation, that's when you have to go back and pay your farm tax deferral. And so there'll be negotiations on that. Um,
The deferral does not change until they change the use.
No. And I won't argue with you on that, but I know better. I've been around the block on that one.
Okay, I work in the assessor's office.
Okay,
I
that's
know.
fine.
It's
I mean,
change
just-
of use,
mhm.
Not annexation to a city.
The change of use will come with the zoning
The same
and then,
to the development.
and what
That's
we're,
change.
Because we were-
that's what I'm getting at. And so when they come in and submit their annexation request and get the new zoning, we anticipate they will be submitting a development agreement with that at the same time. And there'll be a condition of approval that says you need to, bring the property out of farm tax deferral. So we're anticipating all that coming together at one package.
The city doing that, usually it doesn't occur until they sell it.
What's that?
You're requiring an owner to take their property out of deferral to annex to the city.
We're saying they'll probably have the agreement with the developer. The developer will probably move forward with the annexation agreement. They probably will already they take over ownership possibly of that property prior to it being annexed. I'm just saying this is pretty common.
I'm
City of
talking about
Redmond does that
annexation, yeah,
City of
from an
Redmond does that
annexation
quite a bit.
standpoint. Normally it's done by the property owner, and then once everything's secured, then the developer sales.
That's typically what happens is there'll be a negotiation between the developer and the property owner. And yeah, I know, and our property and our department does the review of the land use applications. And that's generally how they've come in through the developer.
I got a question about the food carts on, Commercial Street here.
The ones we didn't approve?
Are they going forward with it now? Or are they still on hold or? They're paving it now?
Did a major modification to what our phase
That was
approval was?
supposed to be
Yeah.
a phased
Yeah.
approval.
No, it was a minor modification. You're talking about the food carts, the 3 food carts.
It was-
Might have been minor to you, but it wasn't minor
The
to
first
me.
phase was the building that was constructed, and then the vacant part was supposed to be the next phase.
Yep, and he's still coming in with that next phase, I understand. And when that phase comes in for that new building, it'll come before the planning commission.
Then the carts go
But the
away?
carts are in that phase.
The carts are gonna go away, he said. He said he plans on having the carts there for 3 or 5 years, and then he wants to build the building and get the carts out of there and have the original approval is what he would like to do.
But those carts are in the place of what should have been phase 2, and they didn't come through approval for phase 2.
No way was that property even approved.
When he comes in for that building will come through the planning commission.
And then the same.
And the carts will go away. That's what we've been told. The carts are not gonna be there permanently. Short term, and then he wants to still build that building in about 3 to 5 years. And that building will come through the planning commission.
Okay.
All right.
Since we didn't officially reopen the work session, did we just?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
We officially.
I didn't, I didn't
Sorry, I missed the official reopen.
use my hammer and do it. So, but we opened the recording. So if there's nothing else on that, then we will continue with our work session next month on the 8th, I think it was.
Yeah.
8th, and at 6 o'clock. And so as Mr. Miller said, if you have any comments on the zoning stuff for the signs, submit that and he'll get out the information to us so we can go forward with that. Nothing else. We are adjourned from our workshop.
Yeah, and I would not